You ready to do this, Stu?
I am ready. 99 ways to punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Stu Jones.
Yeah!
We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 99 and 99. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Stu, it is episode 99. Next week is the big 100. This is almost unreal to me. I can't believe that we're at this point that next week is 100.
I feel so old.
Right? We're hitting our centennial mark. And in podcast terms, that means like we're 1,000 years old.
You don't look a day over 45.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, because I'm not. Yeah, anyway, we'll talk a little bit about episode 100 here in a minute, but how are you? How is your week? What is new?
I'm alive, and I'm happy about that.
Ooh, that's good.
It was like the sickness had hit last week. And it was, I hadn't even seen nothing yet. Get
down with the sickness.
Yeah. I was with Megadeth. You're going with Disturbed. I don't know. Battle of the Bands. But Mo and I got sick hard. She was laid up, missed a few days of school. I was laid up. I just about made the emergency bat phone call to you for the frozen meats. And I couldn't even get to the phone. I was just done. It was terrible. So I've got a little bit of that crap lingering on, but I'm seriously, I've got some energy today. Morgana was just like crazy fun, laughing. It was good to see her back at full speed today. They had like a family fun day or something at the school today. Yeah,
they did, the fall festival.
I missed that.
I know.
Because of work. But Morgana got to go. Her mom came up and was excited to go, and so they went together.
So I actually saw Morgana there.
Yeah?
She was running around, and she like literally ran like almost right into me. I think some of her friends were maybe like two or I was standing in line for the cotton candy because
like
my boys
everybody
were on,
was apparently.
Yeah. My boys were on the bouncy house stuff, and Brita said, "Hey, can you go stand in line for the cotton candy?" Like, great. So I get to stand in line for an hour. And anyway, Mo literally almost ran into me. I was like, "Hey, Mo!" And she stops and she just kind of waves and goes, "Hi!" And I said, "What are you doing?" And she's like, I got a snow cone." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Are you here with your dad?" And she's like, "No, I'm here with my mom." And so I started looking around, and then I saw Amber, and Amber came over, and I introduced myself because I know quite a bit about Amber. You and I have talked about Amber a number of times, and Mo's talked about her mom, but I've never actually met Amber. And so we said hi, and then we kind of talked for a couple minutes, and we were kind of talking about the school and her new job that she's getting, that she's working at down in Salt Lake, and just kind of talked for a couple minutes, and that was nice to get to talk to her. But Mo was just funny. She was just like, you could tell she was in her element. She was having fun. She was super hyper, and there was tons of stuff to do, and she was consuming sugar. So yeah.
Yeah, she's probably still awake, jumping off the bed right now, I'm sure. But I mean, to have her laid out, like she was so just down and out, no fun in her demeanor at all for a few days, and so I'm glad that she's back at full form, and I'll have to deal with that for a couple of days before she calms down, I'm sure. But yeah, she's doing much better. But I've been playing quite a bit more of that Pathfinder Kingmaker.
Ooh.
Did you get
liking it still, huh?
I'm liking it more and more as I go. I did a couple, I got a little ways into it and then kind of got to the point where I had a whole bunch of wish I would have knowns. So look out for that. But then I started a new character. I started Magus, which is like a spell sword. They can cast spells and use weapons at the same time, and even cast spells on their weapons. So when they hit, they go pow and do things. But
cool.
Anyway, there's that. And I started watching Community.
Yeah. How far into it are you?
I am 7 episodes in.
Okay.
And loving it. I love the little bit at the very end with the two guys there and
Abed and Troy.
T-Bone.
Biblioteca. My name is T-Bone.
Oh my gosh.
The Arancha Disroteca, the disco spider.
I'm going to have to tell you a very specific story about that later.
Okay.
But no, it's funny. I like it. I liked it right out the gate. It is cringe-worthy humor. I love it.
Oh, for sure. It's one of my go-tos. Like if I just need, and I actually may watch an episode tonight because I'm going to need it. But like if I need to calm down, I just need to laugh at something. Like I know it's guaranteed. I can pick almost anything and get quite a lot of good belly laughs out of it. So
yeah, I've laughed pretty hard at that. So I finally got Hulu for Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Community to try to watch that. I did watch a few episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and I'm not feeling it.
So here's the thing, like my wife loves Brooklyn Nine-Nine and I like it, but like it took me a little while to really get going with it. And I think it's a funny show, but I don't think it's anywhere in the same league. Anywhere in the same league as like Parks and Rec and Community and The Office. Like it's comedy-wise, for me, it's nowhere near the same league. Funny, not that funny though.
Yeah, I've seen some clips from later episodes, and like some of that stuff is like laugh out loud funny, but I don't know if it just takes a while to spin up or something. But really, I'm not even grabbed by it at all. Whereas Community, from episode 1, the characters are perfect. So,
yeah,
but yeah. Let's see. Anything else? Nope. That's my life in a nutshell.
Well,
TV and kids.
I feel like everyone, Stu, surrounding me has been going through something.
Yeah.
You and Mo were like really deathly sick last week. My mom went in for knee surgery last Thursday. So she's, had that done. My sister-in-law, Steph, went in for a surgery today and everything's okay with her, but she went in for a surgery and so just I feel like there's, a lot of people, having issues or problems or medical things going on around me. And then this weekend, my sister-in-law was here with her husband and their little baby girl. And while that's nice, it's fun to have people around, it also meant, my other sister-in-law was going to come up and spend time. And I had a service project to do for one of my motorcycle club brothers, and then I had my motorcycle club meeting. I had to go and do some merit badge counselor stuff for one of the kids here in the scout troop, and so like it was just a busy full like week, and I was like constantly trying to call my mom and checking on her. And then on Sunday I made a whole grip of pulled pork in the potbelly cooker because we had family in town.
You even called it the potbelly cooker. Oh.
So you really should have called me on the old bat phone for some smoked meat because I would have been able to oblige quite easily. Yeah. So that's been going on. The D&D thing is still going. We had a real good time last Thursday. And then tonight happened.
Uh-oh.
So tomorrow's picture day.
Yes, it is.
So we scheduled the haircuts that we forgot that we needed to get for like later this evening. It was like a 6:30, 6:45 time frame, which really was almost like 7 and 7:15 by the time the place was kind of backed up and got up to us. So that was kind of late. We'd gone to the fall festival, and the kids had eaten a whole bunch of cotton candy, sugar, and they're a little jacked up, they're a little hyper, then they got to sucker the thing, and we got to put the kids to bed after we let them watch a little bit of Star Wars Rebels, try to calm down, and Charlie was good. Charlie was real good, but Jackson, my 4-year-old, we
love our children.
He tried my patience tonight, and I don't I really try really hard not to get angry, not to lose my cool. But it was like bedtime, and we put him in, and like he got in his bed and he sat down, and I said, okay, lay down. And he was like, I don't know how to. And I was like, you know how to lay down. You lay down every night. Lay down. And he's like, no, I don't know how to. And he does this sometimes where like I'll say, come here, come walk over to me. And he was like, no, I don't know how to walk. and I was just done with it. I was just done. It was late. He was already supposed to be in bed. Everything else was running late. And I was like, you know how, lay down or you're in trouble. And he wouldn't. So I counted to 3 and then he wouldn't. And so I ripped him out of his bed and I picked his mattress up off his bed and I walked it into the toy room and I dropped it on the ground. And then I went and picked him up and put him on the mattress. And of course he's freaking out because he hates the idea of sleeping in the toy room separated from his brother. And so he's screaming and crying and I'm holding the door shut because I want him to experience the fact that I'm being serious. And I'm telling him, I'm like, you are not going to lie to your father. You know how to walk. You know how to lay down. And it got real. Like he was screaming and crying. And I was like, no, I'm not letting you out. You need to calm down. And he's like, I don't know how to calm down. I'm like, man, you're lying about this. And I was like, take a deep breath. I don't know how to take a deep breath. I was like, you're compounding your lies with more lies. I'm like, you're going to be sleeping on those lies all night long in the toy room. And you know, my wife's trying to keep Charlie quiet. You know, Charlie's being really good. Like he's usually like if something like this happens, like Charlie then wants to kind of jump into Jackson's defense and be like, Daddy, you're being a meanie. Let him out. You know, let him come back in or whatever. I'm like, no, like, you know, we're gonna learn a lesson. And so anyway, I was doing some serious parenting tonight. And it took a while, and so I apologize for the lateness. That is why I was running late, because I was having to deal with a 4-year-old who was throwing a massive fit. And of course, he's tired, and he's just pushing my buttons. And finally, I got him to calm down and apologize to his mom for lying. And then we had a conversation about what the difference is between telling the truth and telling a lie. And I told him that if he starts telling lies like this again, when there's no reason for him to lie, he's going to lose things. I will put toys in toy jail. I will take TV away. Hey, man, you laugh, but toy jail is real. And he does not like it when his toys go to toy jail. So, yeah. Boy. Anyway, it's just been one of those... Tonight's been one of those real nights where it's like, you have to go full on 100% parent mode, and... you got to lay down the law. And I was just like, we're not lying. I'm like, you are 4 years old. You need to know the difference between telling the lie and telling the truth. And I'm sick of it. So if I sound a little tense right now, it's because my blood pressure's through the roof and I'm trying not to stroke out.
If you stroke out, can I have your stuff?
Yeah, totally.
Ah, awesome.
Potbelly cooker's the first thing on the list. You get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, other than that, other than tonight, like my week's been busy and kind of crazy and super involved, but things are going well. So I told you that I'm making a Jedi costume, right?
No.
Yeah, so I'm making a Jedi costume. Small little piece of interesting news. I'm making this.
Hey, Spencer, are you making a Jedi costume?
Yes, I am.
Oh.
I'm gonna join the Rebel Legion. It's a costuming group. They go around and do a bunch of stuff for charity. And then I looked in my basement and realized I still have a Stormtrooper costume that I bought.
There you go.
Years ago. And so I was like, let me look and see if it still meets the standards. And come to find out, the armor does, but the helmet does not. They've kind of tightened up the restrictions a little bit. The helmet's a little too oversized, over-exaggerated. So I ordered a helmet. And I got a new helmet coming on the way. And I just need to get some...
Is this the 501st Stormtrooper Legion?
Yes, This is the 501st. So I got a helmet on the way, and I just need to get boots and a neck seal, and then put that together. And so I'm going to be able to join the 501st and the Rebel Legion all pretty much at the same time.
Yay, boo!
And do some trooping for a good cause, to raise money, to go, help seasick kids, that kind of stuff. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I mean, I bought that Stormtrooper armor back in 2005, but I put on a bunch of weight and I couldn't wear it. And I've lost quite a lot of weight now, and I can fit into that stuff. So I'm going to take advantage.
That Stormtrooper outfit looks a bit big for you.
Yeah. These are pajamas.
Are you a little small to be a Stormtrooper?
These are Stormtrooper pajamas I'm wearing right now. It's a onesie. It's a Stormtrooper onesie. It's got a zip up
This is as
front.
awkward for me as it is for you, Super Friends.
Well, I mean, if I took the helmet off, I probably would look a little more realistic, but whatever. All right, so that's kind of what's going on with me. I want to talk about episode 100 a little bit here.
Oh,
So that's next week, and I'm super excited for it. So Super Friends, here's the deal for episode 100. This is kind of our tentative plan. It's going to be similar to our normal show. We're going to do things a little different. At the end of this show this week, we're not going to ask you a question to get your answers. We want to ask you to ask us questions. We want to answer your questions next week for episode 100. So you know the thing, you know the drill. Ask us questions. Anything you want to know from us, whether it's about our lives, about parenting, whether it's about like our love of nerd and pop culture, anything. If you want to try to paint me into a corner to watch some show or movie that I've refused to watch, now's your opportunity.
you're absolutely right. Go ahead and paint Spencer into a corner. Ask him anything.
That's right. The other thing is we want to hear from you. We want to know what are some of your favorite moments maybe from the podcast or things you like. Whatever you want to do. We're leaving that phone number completely wide open so you can call in and leave us voicemails. You can email us, all the normal places. So the email is fortofnerd@gmail. Twitter is @fortofnerd. Facebook is facebook.com/fortofnerd. And then the phone number is 801-477-7687. And you can get us all those places. And so we really want to make this episode about the Super Friends. We want your interaction. And that's kind of what we're dedicating it to. We're probably going to maybe take a little trip down memory lane. Look back a little bit about where the podcast came from. But then we also want to kind of look forward about, where we're going and kind of what we want to see happen on the podcast and what you, Super Friends, want to see happen on the podcast. So if you got something in mind you want to see us cover, you want to see us do, let us know. We are open to suggestions.
Podcast karaoke.
I think Steve and I have done quite a bit of that in the past, but I'm always up for more.
You go ahead. I'm the worst. We would lose listeners if I start singing on this thing. Hard.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Well,
100, man. It's coming up.
it is. I feel like I've only been here for like 30 of them.
It feels like more. I actually, so as I've been prepping for episode 100, I've been working on a few things. And you may only feel like you've been 30, but if it is, I think it does feel a little bit more. And ever since you came out, I gotta say, Stu, it's been a good natural fit. Like this has been a lot of fun,
especially when at least one of us are sick.
Oh man! And when one of us takes medication intentionally before the podcast,
those are my favorite. It's Stu show.
No, but one of the things I worried a little bit about was, trying to go from having a co-host that I've known most of my entire life to going with someone else, and how that's going to work. And like I said, even though you've been only part of it for like the last 30 or so, it feels natural. Like it's like you've been here almost since the beginning. So that's a good thing. I like that.
I'm the Danny Glover version of Lando. I'm the new stuff, the hot stuff.
The Donald Glover, not the Danny Glover.
No, I said it right. I'm old.
I'm the Predator 2 version, not the Predator version. Steve's going to be like, what? I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger in this scenario? That's great.
Yeah. So, I feel like, usually I like to kind of take the reins on this, but given the evening you've had, would you like to kill some Bothan, Spencer?
Oh, I want to strangle some Bothans. I want to punch them in the face. I want to drop them in a...
Beep, beep. it for your protection, super friends.
Let's murder some Bothans. I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Stu, we've murdered lots of Bothans.
I
and
can
I took
still
some
hear the
extra
screams.
time. Let's get into the old Rebel Intelligence.
Okay.
What do you have? What's going on? What's
I
happening
need to snap your mood. I need to snap it hard. You need to get like psyched and pumped up. New Glass trailer.
Ooh.
Have you seen this beast?
I have not.
Beast. You haven't seen it?
I have not.
So it's a full-on trailer, and it goes really deep into kind of like, I guess, at least what they're making you feel like the premise of the movie is about. And
right.
I don't want to spoil a trailer. It's just a trailer, but
it's a Shama-Lama Ding Dong movie, so you hit it right on the head. What they're trying to make you think the movie's about, right?
Right. But but just kind of like how it's like it just goes really deep into the pairing of Mr. Glass and the Beast, and then kind of how Bruce Willis's character is brought into it. And it just, I hope this is how the movie comes to play, because the relationship between them and how it develops in that short couple minutes for the trailer is ridiculous. The characters are as exactly as I would hope they would be. It's almost like they didn't skip a beat between any of the movies whatsoever. I'm so pumped up to see this in January. No matter what day I actually see it on the first time, I will be seeing it on my birthday, January 29th. If anyone wants to send me a birthday present, just saying. It's fantastic, man. You've got to see this trailer. I don't want to spoil it for you. I don't care about spoiling it for anybody else.
Yeah. Don't spoil it for me, because when we get off this call, I'll go watch it. Can I take you out for your birthday to go see this? Because I want to go see this like right away when this comes out.
What? I don't even know what day of the month. What day of the month?
let's make it a date.
It's a Tuesday. We will have to do that on a Tuesday.
So it's not. Wait, your birthday's on a Tuesday, or the movie comes out on a Tuesday?
My birthday's on a Tuesday. Oh, you're saying it's not actually my birthday. You'll just take me to go see. I gotcha.
Right.
You'll take me to go see it on my AMC Stubbs A-list thing.
No, man. I'll pay for you to go.
Well, you don't need to. I mean, I kind of feel powerful in that, though.
How about that?
You can buy.
I'll order popcorn and have it sent directly to your seat.
Wow, that's amazing.
Hey, Stu, for your birthday, man, I'm going to have it set up special. They're going to come deliver food directly to you. They don't usually do this, but just for you.
Yes, they actually do, Spencer. I am hip to their ways and yours.
Taking credit for other people's work?
Can we sneak in barbecued meats?
Probably.
Nice, I'm in. But
pork chop pizza.
Oh, don't tease. That's cold.
Cold-blooded.
Anyway, this is it is even better than the teaser. Seriously need to see it. I want to talk more about it next week. I'm sure I will have watched it about 5,000 times, but it's out there, super friends. New trailer for Glass. It's ridiculous.
Nice. I'm definitely going to go check it out as soon as we're done here. Okay, so we've kind of talked about James Gunn a bit. James Gunn, obviously the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. We know he was fired from Marvel based on old tweets from like 10 years ago, because in today's day and age now, people will weaponize civility and say, hey, let's go back and find anything that anyone's ever said, and let's find a reason to say we need to, censor this person. Obviously, I'm not very happy about it. I think that this was a bad choice by Marvel Studios, by Disney, actually, because it was the parent corporation. But Anyway, some interesting / maybe potentially good news. James Gunn is going to be writing a sequel for Suicide Squad. Yep, you heard that right. He's actually going from Marvel Studios that let him go based on their really weird, archaic stance. And he's going over to the rival. He's going over to DC. and he's going to write a sequel to Suicide Squad, and it looks like there's also a chance he may direct it as well. Now, he has said that apparently it's not going to be exactly quite a sequel to David Ayer's Suicide Squad. He's going to kind of take the Suicide Squad kind of in a different way. Listen, I don't know how it could get worse, and I have faith in his writing and his directing, so I think this could actually be a really good thing for the Suicide Squad. But the interesting thing about that is that, you know, he's going to be on the other side. He's going to be, doing this movie. He's going to write it, if he's going to produce it, and he's going to take it a new way. If this thing becomes like a big hit for DC, would, totally turn what they wanted to be a Suicide Squad franchise around, because we know they're doing like the Sirens movie, and they're, going to try to do some follow-up stuff there, and then it kind of, fizzled. But I also think that this could usher in an era of DC trying to go and try to hire directors and writers who have done stuff for Marvel and have them come over to the DC universe to try to grab some of that expertise that maybe that Marvel Studios magic. Because I mean, we did see them bring in what's his face to finish off Justice League. He did the first Avengers movie. I'm spacing now because I've got a million things in my brain. Joss Whedon, yeah. They brought Joss Whedon in, and Joss Whedon did the Avengers. So I don't know. This could be an interesting development. I'm curious to see what happens. I don't know, Stu. What do you think? Hearing that James Gunn's going to jump ship and go to DC. I mean, not necessarily jump ship, because it's not like he's abandoning them, because they abandoned him.
He walked the plank.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I'm not really surprised. I mean, I don't even think it's really such a substantial deal. I mean, we see people like J.J. Abrams working for Star Trek and Star Wars, and really, when it comes down to it, it's a person doing a job, and the major studios want to make sure they have the right people for things. His success with Guardians 1 and 2 definitely speaks for itself. So, the fact that DC has no standards or lower standards, whatever the worst way you want to take that is. But seriously, I mean, they're not beholden to the Disney standard at all. And I mean, without that, really, it is an overblown situation. And so, I wouldn't be surprised to see any other studio pick him up. So if he can do Suicide Squad some justice, that's a good thing. I'm glad that he's finding work, and that at least this hasn't killed his career, and potentially get some good DC comic movie loving out of it. My only hope is that... Is it a new hope?
No, it's a hope I've had for a while. Oh. Is that the DC powers that be keep their grubby little hands out of the mix, and they actually let like the writers and directors have more creative control. Because I think that's the big problem over there in DC, is that there's too much movie by committee.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Iron Fist. We talked about, watching that and maybe doing a movie club. How are you doing on that?
I started the first episode, and then I got sidetracked with a bunch of other stuff.
I rolled the opening credits and then decided to sidetrack myself to other stuff. I'm having a really hard time even getting the motivation to watch it. I know people have said that it's so much better than the first season, but I've been burned. I do want to watch it, though. I know we've got good old, Matt coming up here in Daredevil season 3.
Yep.
So I want to be kind of caught up to all that stuff. We know that there's a Punisher season 2 coming out and all kinds of things. I don't want to skip this, but man, it's hard to get the motivation to watch it. Well, apparently Netflix feels the exact same way. They have canceled the show, meaning that there will be no season 3, which had actually been announced previously.
Really?
Yeah. This is the first death of a Marvel Netflix show. Which is interesting, since they even revived Supergirl to bring it over to Netflix. Sorry, not Supergirl. Jeez Louise, never mind. I'm thinking a whole different thought. I got sidetracked. Sorry. I was thinking CW with Supergirl. Anyway.
Yeah.
But so interestingly enough, I haven't seen it, and unfortunately, some of the research that I did spoiled a big thing for me, which I kind of wish I had watched it to see it. But anyway, they left like a huge cliffhanger at the end of season 2, which they either need to capitalize on tying it off with another series, or it's just gonna stay there. But
do you think that they'll bring Iron Fist into some of the other shows then?
Oh, I could almost guarantee it. I mean, we see cameos and crossover stuff throughout all of it. I can't imagine that they'll just suddenly ignore the Iron Fist. However, the spoiler thing that I refer to may make that a little bit easier, and I can't really talk about it, so watch the whole thing. At the end of it, you'll figure it out what I mean. I kind of feel like now I actually really do need to see the end of it, not just with the Daredevil thing ending, but so that I can kind of understand and formulate what my speculation is going to be properly. We'll see, though. I'm surprised they canceled it, though.
So here's my problem with Iron Fist right now is like I want to watch it because I want to see what's going to happen. And I've heard that there's a big spoiler, but I also need to see the second season of Jessica Jones, the second season of Luke Cage.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like if I don't watch those other ones first...
You do. You need to.
Yeah, see, I feel like there's going to be stuff I'm going to miss or crossover stuff or, and so I think I need to go back and get Jessica Jones season 2, then Luke Cage season 2, which is, I think, the order they came out. So...
Yep.
But I'm kind of caught up to that point. Like the last newest thing I saw was Punisher.
Yeah, you definitely need to catch up on those. No signs of either of those being canceled, so that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was a show that I would hope would get canceled, it would be Iron Fist. But I don't like the idea of it in general because I love that has a place. To have comic book characters, especially the Defender style, where these are not like Superman's type superheroes. These are the people on the streets turned superhero that do have some superpowers, but not grandiose, and it kind of keeps it local and in the hood.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Word.
All right. Well, I may need to get my gangster on and go back and start catching up on 3 Marvel Netflix series to get all caught up. Speaking of getting caught up, I talked about something last week on Rebel Intelligence. I talked about how Chuck Wending, the author of Star Wars Aftermath, is going to do that comic book series called Shadow of Vader. It's like a 5-part miniseries. So yeah, that was announced last week, and then this week he's fired. Yeah. And basically what had happened was...
Who did he make mad?
Right. Basically what had happened was that he posted this lengthy statement on his Twitter, basically confirming he'd been fired by Marvel and will not be doing the final 2 issues of The Shadow of Vader or the yet unannounced Star Wars book that he was slated to do. Basically, he was saying that the reason he was fired was because he was too vulgar on his Twitter and talked about politics too much on Twitter and social media. And basically, he kind of went through this whole thing where he just said, because he'd been talking about, reactions to fandom, The Last Jedi and a bunch of the U.S. politics. And he just kind of had this like full statement. And he basically says like, he went in and, he got a lot of backlash after he had an LGBT character in his book, Star Wars Aftermath. And a bunch of people came out of kind of the woodwork from the internet. And, and he, kind of defended his rationale and reasoning for his choices. And then, he got, was really political. He started getting tons of harassment. And so like, he was just, kind of not holding any punches back. But he said, he was just sickened by everything that he'd seen with, like Kelly Marie Tran, that's, in Last Jedi that plays Rose, and how like she left social media because she was being pretty much bullied by a subset of the Star Wars fandom. And he said, Lucasfilm Limited had been like a really kind of progressive company and they were okay with everything, but apparently Marvel, aka Disney, was not. And so they basically let him go and said, you're not gonna finish this up. And once again, this is, people complaining, saying, that he was being too nasty on social media and, kind of starting basically a harassment campaign against him, you guised in the terms of civility. And he said that's why he was let go.
Yeah, I kind of think if you are, I guess it really doesn't even matter what industry you're in, but, at all and any time, you could be scrutinized for what you have on social media to begin with. And I definitely limit what I put on Facebook and things like that. I don't rag anybody out. I don't complain about much. I try to keep it civil, which is two things. One is it's protecting myself because I never know where I'm going to be. And some people that get, hazed out for having poor social media content, they never expected they would ever be in a position where it would ever even matter. But it can. So I think about that. But then at the other time, it kind of limits, what I put on social media that really isn't a true representation of who I am. It's really, I'm a dad. You see a lot of Morgana pictures, but really that's 90% of what it is. So it's kind of a self-censorship kind of thing, but I'm not going to risk it for anybody's sake. Any employer anywhere looking at their employees, pretty much, unless you've got a contract situation, whatever the case may be, you are representing their business even in your personal dealings. So
yep.
It's tough because, I absolutely I hate the idea of the things that people are doing to seek out, like you said, in the name of civility, to fire people. But at the same time, you also have to be careful of yourself and cover your own butt.
Yeah. CYA.
Cover your butt.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. It's one of the reasons why I, on social media, and it's like you said, it's not that you're trying to like hide who you are, but you just choose not to vent, or maybe not to get, personal, and not to rant and rave like a lunatic on the internet.
Oh, besides, there's enough negativity out there anyway.
And that's right. And that's something I try to keep in mind, is like, there's times where I get upset and I get frustrated by things, and it would be really easy to just like, post something on Twitter or Facebook and, rail against it. And it's easy in like this kind of hyper political climate we're in right now, where everything, no matter which side of the political aisle you are on in the United States, people get crazy about stuff and they just go back and forth. And I look at that and I say, yeah, but here's the deal. How many times do you hear people say, you know what? You convinced me that I was wrong on the internet.
Never. Very
rare. And so it's like, why waste my effort in trying to go online to like set the record straight and, convince someone that they're wrong about, their political beliefs against my political beliefs, or, religious beliefs, or whatever, right? Like, it's just a waste of my time. If people want to know how I feel about something, I'm glad to talk to people, but I'm not going to use a social media platform as, a bully pulpit or a soapbox, because, that doesn't really do much good. So I try to keep it positive and, keep it nice. And it's nice to run into other people that do that. And thankfully, we got a lot of great super friends in this community that are like that. Like we see a lot of positivity and a lot of good things happening. And that's kind of what we're about. And I like that that's who we are.
Well, there you go. Positive people for positive performance. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Vote on positivity this November. I feel like that's almost, we got a political thing statement. I don't know.
Let's not go there. We're keeping it positive.
Vote Captain America for president.
Oh, gee. Iron Man or bust.
No. See, Iron Man's...
Make Avengers great again.
You got to have Iron Man as the vice president. You know why? No real responsibility, can totally slack off and do whatever he wants. He doesn't really want that kind of responsibility.
I'm not going to provide any further commentary on this.
Wakanda forever.
Right. I'll do my geography report. All right. So, moving right along then. Talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about a little Netflix series coming our way called The Witcher.
Ah, yes, we did.
We did. Good old Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill?
Cavill.
That's for you, Caleb.
Right.
Anyway, so we got the big name in there. There's been a couple other releases. Anyone who does know anything about The Witcher knows that he's kind of all about the ladies. Definitely has multiple romantic interests throughout the series. And while this deal is the Netflix show is based on the books rather than video games, there are a couple female characters that fans of the video games will recognize, with Ciri and Yennefer. They are two important characters in his, I don't know, in his surrounding nebula of people. Ciri kind of more like a daughter figure, but Yennefer definitely. So anyway, we've got two actresses. We've got Freya Allan. She's from
Sounds
Into
very
the
Viking.
Badlands. Yeah, these are kind of lesser known actresses, I would say. I mean, I know someone's going to know who they are and berate me wildly, I'm sure. I welcome it. Bring it on. But anyway, Freya Allan, she was in something called Into the Badlands, which I've actually heard a little bit about, but I've never gotten to know anything about it. And then Anya Chalotra, and I probably said that horribly wrong, from Wanderlust will be Yennefer. So these are important. These are definitely important characters to the story, though. So the full cast is definitely getting fleshed out. That's a great thing. I love that we're seeing this all kind of come together, and that it's staying moving forward. Because these days, I'm never really sure what we're actually going to see, no matter how far it gets into pre-production.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, not huge news, but it's nice to see some faces getting cast and see how this is all shaping up.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm.
How badly do I need to play that?
12 out of 10. If you're looking for important games in computer role playing, or even video games in general, in this case, Witcher 3 is definitely a milestone.
Okay.
I mean, it's like of the level of Baldur's Gate, the Ultima series as in general. It's there. It's probably the biggest modern CRPG that you could get your hands on.
Okay. I've got it. I own it. I started playing it, and then I got distracted by God of War, which then got distracted by something else, which got distracted by something else, and now I'm hardly playing much video games, actually, the last few weeks.
If I had to pick any one CRPG of the last 10 years that was important to play, it would be Witcher 3.
Okay.
With the expansions.
Which I have.
There you go. Game of the Year edition.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm just curious. It's on my list of things to get back to, and there's also SpiderMan that's calling my name. I really want to pick that up, but I'm waiting to see if it comes on sale for Black Friday.
Ah.
At this point,
Well, it does. I mean...
Right? Let's hope.
I mean, it does. It should.
It should, yeah. Games usually do.
I'm sorry. I'm actually I'm getting distracted by a whole bunch of other news I kind of want to talk about. But in the interest of time.
Well, if you got something quick, we can always hit it, man. Ain't nothing wrong with a surprise every now and again.
I was just seeing some of the some feedback from the first episode of the new Doctor Who.
Uh-huh.
And it just looked really interesting. Some of the aspects about the show, that it's being filmed differently than it was before, that the scope of the show definitely feels more cinematic, that kind of stuff. So I need to watch them. Did you watch?
I have not yet, because I've still got about half of Peter Capaldi's last season. And so Breed and I are trying to, like I said, this last week was kind of crazy. We're trying to figure out our schedule so we can set some time aside to actually go and watch and finish it, because I really do want to see Jodie Whittaker's take on the Doctor.
Yeah, well, it's apparently impressing many people. So
yeah. Speaking of impressive, The box office numbers for Black Panther were impressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
700 million domestically.
No
Well,
biggie.
When you have a big movie like that, and you're going to do a sequel, which obviously they're going to, usually you have a problem trying to re-secure the writer and the director of the first movie because they've moved on to other projects and they're, doing other stuff. Well, T'Challa won't be the only one going back to Wakanda in the second movie, in the sequel. Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that Ryan Coogler has closed a deal to both write and direct Black Panther 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, man, I'm hoping they have some sweet dance moves.
Apparently, they're saying like this deal actually happened a while ago, but it's now just becoming public, which to me sounds a little shocking because in today's day and age, like as soon as anything happens, it seems like, people want to leak it out and get it out there so people can start building that hype train and get it going. But Coogler said all along he wanted to come back, and now it's a for sure thing. It's, inked. He is going to come back. So I'm excited about that only because I do love it when a writer, director who's done something big comes back to do this sequel, because when someone else steps in, it always feels different, right? Like go to the first Alien movie, Alien, and then go to Aliens. Ridley Scott versus James Cameron.
However,
completely different.
Both
Great
of those
films.
were epic movies, though.
Absolutely, but tonally though, you can
different.
tell that they're very different films.
Yeah.
And so what I like is that we know that this tonally is going to feel the same.
Well, yeah, the director is as important. The director is really another actor. They've got, they've got their motivations, they've got the character, and yeah, when you see a different director doing something similar with the same people, it's going to feel different. So,
right,
I agree.
So anyway, that was the last thing I had. Ryan Coogler coming back for Black Panther 2.
All right, well done.
Awesome. So, yeah, that's the Rebel Intelligence, man. That's what we got.
Huh.
How about that?
Yeah, all right.
Stu, last week we had a discussion. We were talking about video games we want to see remade. We came up with some, and we asked our super friends what video game they would like to see remade or maybe just continued on. And we got quite a bit of answers, and so let's get to those answers. What do you say?
Let's kill the Bothans. Oh,
wait, where did that?
Sorry, one of them got away, and I got him. So
murder that guy. All right, starting over at email, which you can reach us every week, forwardofnerd@gmail.com. We've got Peter Christensen. He says, "Dear nerds, Sweden has an actual queen and royal family that's unlikely to secede power without a fight. Good luck, Saga Vanacek."
Yeah, but unless they pulled a sword out of the water, I don't recognize their sovereignty.
Now, Stu, are you still planning on marrying Saga Vanacek to become the king of Sweden?
Eventually. That explains the clip. I'm like, oh, this is a random, awkward, and funny thing that you sent me, but I did not draw the connection.
Yeah, I did send you the meet your future second wife clip from Saturday Night Live.
I get it now.
Don't be white. Aw, dang.
Show us the sonogram.
That was so funny. Hey, she's not bad. She's in college. We're okay. Yeah. That's so funny. Anyway, Peter goes on to says, "I'm not into video games and wouldn't make time to play an amazing remake. So here's a movie review." After mentioning the 2003 Daredevil movie last week, I decided to rewatch it. Much like X-Men Last Stand, it's better than its reputation. It reminded me of the feel of the Tim Burton Batman movies with modern effects and style. Michael Clark Duncan plays a great Kingpin, Jennifer Garner is a good Elektra, and Colin Farrell's Bullseye is a goofy, cartoonish psycho that somehow makes sense. The music and style work and the story is good. The visualization of Blind Radar is pretty cool too, though. However, it's a prime example of how the perception of movies is limited by their worst aspect. This movie somehow manages to both show too much and tell too much. There's so much narration, and it also handholds you through basic movie language. For instance, When young Matt is blinded by toxic waste, it actually shows a forklift pulling a barrel off of the pallet, drive right in front of the camera, and zoom in on the biohazard label. It was also in the area when animators were too excited about what they could do with CGI that they ignored physics. That style worked for Spider-Man, but not Daredevil. And Affleck, while okay, is the weakest part of the movie. Overall, it was well done, but dragged down by some mediocre aspects. It demonstrates how MCU movies benefit from sanding of all the rough edges to be predictably good. Cheers, Peter.
So you said worst aspects? I think you mispronounced that. He wrote worst Afflecks. I was patient for that one.
That's funny.
I'll follow out there.
When was the last time you watched that 2003 Daredevil movie?
2003.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me too. I know that I actually do own it on DVD. I think I got it for $1 or $2. But I don't think I've watched it since then. Maybe I should watch that.
I haven't watched it since I think I saw it twice. To be honest though, I actually didn't mind it at all. So
maybe we should do a Sidekick podcast every once in a while where we go back and watch a movie we thought was totally crap back in the day and then rewatch it and see if maybe it was just, our perception was different back then and it's actually not a bad movie.
Or we should watch movies that we thought were fantastic as kids and then spoil that illusion.
Yeah. Yeah, there could be some duds in there that were like, Mortal Kombat was the best movie ever.
It really was. Shut your mouth.
Sorry, Steve Madura. I know.
Mortal Kombat movie was awesome.
I told him it was the greatest movie ever to get him to go see it in the theater with me.
Oh,
nice. He's never let me live that down. Let's jump over to Facebook. And buckle up.
All right, Caleb.
This one's a Caleb Albers in his prime here. He says, maybe I was mistaken. Krypton throws out a lot more shade towards superhero movies than Stu does.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if that's the case, but let's go on and see what else he has to say, and then we can talk about it. He says, Venom was not a bad movie at all. Did it have its flaws? Of course it did. But overall, it was a pretty solid movie. Tom Hardy did an excellent job at portraying both Eddie Brock and Venom. I feel like he really captured the essence of the Eddie I know from the comics. And the way they wrote Venom worked really well. Very accurate. Not many people know this, but Venom in the comics is a bit of a goofy character. In one famous adaptation where Spidey and Venom have to team up to defeat Carnage, Spidey is thinking about how weird it is to team up with Venom, while Venom is busy singing Strangers in the Night. He's supposed to not be super serious, and I feel like that's one main reason why the movie is getting hate. It's worth a watch. Okay, let's break that up right there, because there's other stuff.
He said Stu's right, so...
Here's the thing. I've heard, because I asked my brother who went and saw it. I didn't see it yet, and I don't know if I'm going to. I heard that Tom Hardy did a good job, except for his accent, that he can't decide whether he's using an American accent or a British accent. And he bounces back and forth throughout the whole movie.
Well, at least it's not Chinese or something that's completely different from English.
And here's the other thing, and maybe this is why it seems like Caleb thinks I'm throwing a lot of shade on Marvel movies. Or on superhero movies. He doesn't say Marvel movies. I don't know that it's that I necessarily throw a lot of shade, but I do think that I'm a little more critical of some of these movies at times, and some of these other movies that come out that, they're having to adjust and adapt because, they can't use SpiderMan in this and they can't do this, and they have to make a lot of concessions. And unfortunately, with some of those things, like I'm gonna look at it because I want them to be good, and I want excellence. And I've also stopped trying to look at them with maybe the fanboy goggles as much. If it's a bad movie, it's a bad movie. Now, if I like the character and like I'm trying to rationalize some of that, I need to be a little more objective. I need to have a different perspective. I need to be able to watch it and not just inject the fanboyism. That's why I can actually look at The Last Jedi and say, I didn't like the movie. It was an okay movie, but I didn't love it. Like, I didn't. But that's because I'm trying to separate out the fanboyism. But if I was just like, hey, it's a Star Wars movie and I love everything Star Wars, that wouldn't actually be true to what I really think.
Well, except that I am that fanboy that even liked the prequels and still hated The Last Jedi, so I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. So, maybe you're right. Maybe you're not. I don't know. It's hard to say. I feel like I want more out of some of these movies.
Having standards, I mean, it's your enjoyment that's at stake here. So if you don't enjoy it for whatever reason, that's valid.
Right. He says, now, as for a video game that needs a revamp, with Marvel getting the rights to the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, I think they need to work out a deal with Sony to give us an updated version of the Ultimate SpiderMan. I loved that game growing up and actually purchased it not too long ago, and the game really holds up. I love the story and how in-depth it dived into the Marvel Universe. We got to fight Venom as Spidey in the first few minutes of the game. Then we got to play as Venom to fight Wolverine. We also got to race the Human Torch around New York. It was awesome. And with how good graphics are today, I would play that game to death. I don't know that I ever played that game, but it sounds like fun.
I don't even recall it existing.
Okay, says lastly, I have something to ask both of you. You guys talk about Star Wars and Star Trek with a level of enthusiasm that is as high as in the first episode as in your most recent. You like the movies, the books, and the shows. But when it comes to Marvel or DC, it feels like you guys are over it. It seems like with Doctor Strange and Black Panther, you feel like it's just a retelling of the story from Iron Man. Or with Aquaman, you think it's going to be a really basic hero finds his purpose movie. But are you remembering that these stories are straight from the comics? Yes. The origin stories are pretty similar, but that's just how they are. So my question, what is the difference between countless hours of TV show or books from Star Wars or Star Trek versus what we get with the Marvel movies? At least for you. I know with me, I get a bit more story in the show because they don't have to keep introducing new characters, but I enjoy movies more because of what they can accomplish in a couple of hours. Anyway, thoughts?
I like what I like. I mean, when it really comes down to it, I like what I like. I'm okay with feeling that something is potentially not going to live up to the standards that I maybe want to see in movies. My opinion, based on seeing trailers of Aquaman, for example, it doesn't have anything to do with whether it's based on comics. It doesn't have anything to do with where it comes from. It simply does not look good.
So, I want to address the Star Wars, Star Trek thing for half a second. I love Star Wars. And Caleb is right. There's a lot of stuff I love and I can watch countless hours. However, I thought that the prequels were pretty much hot garbage. And there was a lot of problems there. And I was critical of it. And I've been critical of it. And I don't back down from that. I don't blindly just love it because it's something Star Wars.
Right.
Last
Jedi.
Last Jedi. I mean, I had a 2.5 hour podcast with Steve and Gabe Patillo, and I didn't pull any punches on, there's a lot of problems, a lot of things I didn't like, and it really sat wrong with me. But then, I loved Rogue One, loved it, and I know there was a lot of people that didn't. They didn't care for it. They felt it was different tonally, and they didn't love it. I've listened to books. Matter of fact, just today I finished a book called Catalyst, a Rogue One story, and it basically revolves around Jyn Erso's parents and her father Galen Erso, the scientist that basically kind of gets positioned to where he ends up helping out Orson Krennic develop the weapon for the Death Star.
Yep.
And the book was interesting, but it didn't have Jedi in it. It didn't have a lot of the normal trappings of a Star Wars movie. It was more of a kind of a political tale about how to position, enemies and how to use kind of the Sun Tzu kind of approach to try to get people to do things you want them to do and get them into a place where you can reappropriate science so you can weaponize it. And it was an interesting book, but it definitely wasn't. I'm not going to say it's one of my favorite Star Wars books. I probably wouldn't read it again. I read it once and enjoyed it for what it was, but I'm not going to say it's the best. So I do. And then, of course, I thought Star Trek Enterprise was hot garbage.
I love Star Trek Enterprise, so.
Yeah, I thought it was hot garbage. And I didn't really get into Voyager very well, and I had some problems with DS9. But on the whole, I love Star Trek and I love Star Wars. So I can be critical of those. So your thing about you feel like we kind of bag on the Marvel stuff. I love Doctor Strange.
I did too.
I love that movie. But I do get what you were saying, because we did make the comparison that the character of Doctor Strange is very similar in a lot of ways to Iron Man. And we did, say that there was an honest trailer where they basically just, made that point humorously that Doctor Strange is the new Iron Man. I did have some problems with Black Panther. The final fight scene was very anticlimactic for me. Punch, kick, fight, punch, wait for a train, let's dialogue a little bit. Punch, fight, kick, wait for a train, let's dialogue a little bit. I didn't care for that. It took me out of the movie. There was no real tension there for me. I thought it was an okay movie. I didn't buy all the hype about because of who it was and what it stood for and what it represented to a community of people. I just wanted to see it for the movie it was, and on its own, it was an okay movie. It was a good movie, but it wasn't a great movie. But you know what? There's been plenty of Marvel movies that have been great. So, yeah. To each his own. I love Marvel stuff. Caleb, don't get me wrong. I just want more sometimes.
It's our podcast.
All right, let's go over to Twitter. We got quite a lot of responses here. So let's start with Delvin Cox at Delvin_Cox says, I want a remake of Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay. Ooh, such a great game.
Yes.
I never played that one. I know it was on the 360. I always kind of wanted to play it, but I just never got around to it.
Oh man, I love Riddick as the entire concept.
Yeah.
Where the video game tells its own story. I think it's just before Chronicle, the last one. Anyway, that it all kind of fits together, and that they're using different mediums to kind of tell that. And it's such a great character for an anti-hero, and that game was awesome.
Yeah. I didn't play the game, but I do love that character, and I kind of love it feels like a very kind of old sci-fi movie. And I mean that in the way it's kind of independent, and it's just kind of different. I love the Riddick stuff. Coach Hulk says, give me that. So he wants Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay. Says, and NBA 2K11, because it had a lot of Jordan and focused on post play. And that was the NBA game where Jordan was on the cover. You could go back and play as the old Bulls teams. You also had the Jordan challenges where you got to do repeat a lot of the things that Jordan did in the games. So if you're into sports games, I like that idea. Or if you made a hockey game, make it about Wayne Gretzky. Have to go back and do a bunch of Wayne Gretzky stuff and play some of those teams. Or football, go back with Bo Jackson, man. Bring back some of that stuff. That'd be fun.
I liked the boxing games. Never liked. Well, no, that's not true. I did like NBA Jam because that was over the top.
Right, but you're not down with the team sports games.
That's not necessarily true. I've played some. Oddly enough, I hate baseball, but the EA baseball games, that was actually pretty fun.
Those were a lot of fun. I loved them. Our good old super friend Chad at ChadFackler1 says, Twisted Metal was always one of my favorites. That would be great with newer graphics. I like the Twisted Metal games back in the day.
I want a mashup between Twisted Metal and Grand Theft Auto.
That could be interesting. How about a mashup between Mario Kart and Grand Theft Auto?
Oh no!
Mario
and Luigi, they work for the mob. It's
jump out and pimp slap around some toadettes or something, and
oh boy, I'm sure somebody out there. If nobody's made a mod for that, I would be surprised.
Right. Paul Calicote says Turtles in Time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
I mean, I could see that. Also on Twitter, Josh Stapleton at MTTG Street Team.
Do you know him? Have you ever?
I do.
met
He's
him?
a bum.
Okay.
He's a bum. But he says, I'd love an Aladdin remake. DuckTales remake was good. Why not? A Contra remake, keep it 2D, and anything from the old EA big teams, NBA Street, SSX, etc.
Oh, SSX. Oh, man. I definitely pulverized my thumbs and fingers on the controls for that game many times over.
Kind of makes me think of like a Tony Hawk type of game, but
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was the basic premise of it, was Tony Hawk on snow.
Right, but I'm saying like they've done some Tony Hawk games and they tried to do one kind of recently, but it was
so bad.
Hot garbage. Yeah. Patrick Novacell at Nova Beyond. This is by far the best answer. I'm just gonna say personally. I would have said this also, but I felt like I talked about this a little too much a couple episodes before. But he says, the game that should be remade and or continue is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Why they haven't done this is beyond me. There is so much money there that I feel is being left on the table. Can I get a halla freaking Luya? Yes, Patrick Novacell, I am with you. Knights of the Old Republic, give me some KOTOR.
So, funny enough, and I know this is going to be maybe an unpopular answer, but if you want some Knights of the Old Republic action, the Old Republic MMO, while it started out as an MMO and there were definitely some flaws, and while they still have some instances and some raids, they've actually done, in the last couple expansions, they've kind of added all the non-group content is all like really solo storyline stuff that kind of picks up at the end of the main group content of the base game in the first expansion. And they tell like really good stories like Knights of the Old Republic. Now, it's not as varied and open-ended as Knights of the Old Republic, but it does scratch the itch a little bit, and I'm actually really impressed with some of the story stuff that they've done in the last few years.
And that game's free to play right now, right?
Yes, it is.
So why don't they just port that over and put it on consoles and slap a disc in there and sell for $60 a pop?
Because then it's no longer free to play?
Yeah, but I mean, for the console people that don't play PC, though, they would pay $60 to play it. I mean, if it's got all that content.
I don't know. There are any number of reasons. I honestly feel like most games that are ported from PC to console are a bad idea in the first place, unless it's designed for them all in together when it's being developed. But there have been some exceptions. Diablo 3 actually turned out, I think, better on console than it did PC. But for the most part, I don't necessarily want to see them all over there.
But you would want to see this
I
one,
wouldn't
though,
I wouldn't want to play WoW on a console.
No.
So,
No, that's true.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see that there.
But yeah, I would be all for a KOTOR 3.
Yeah, gosh, yes. So Stu, we also have some voicemails.
Uh-oh.
Did you know this?
I did not.
We have voicemails this week.
Wait a minute. You're saying voicemails?
Voicemails, as in we have 3 voicemails.
I'm suddenly scared.
So let's turn to the old voicemail, and we will listen to the first one here.
Alrighty.
All right, listen here. First of all, your greeting needs to have some type of music to it. I mean, if you're the Fortress of Nerditude, you need to have something to go with that. Anyway, this is DSpin67, and your question of the week is, what games would I like to see continued or remade? I would like to see Valve do a Game 3 of something. Portal 3, Left 4 Dead 3, Half-Life 3. They need to come up with something. The other game I would like to see made or continue would be a Mafia 4, possibly set in the 70s with some of the cool 70s music. Don't know what kind of theme or, like what city or which part of the country, but I think that would be something cool if they could do that, because we've had I think the 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever, and then they did the 60s. So the 70s right now would be pretty good, I think. So that's it for me. Thank you guys for doing the podcast every week. Thank you for tweeting this out. Again, this is DSpin67. I'm out.
All right, D-Spin coming in, man. I liked some of that. Valve's got to do a third game of something.
Shots fired. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I love it. I like all those ideas, man. Let's make it happen.
Or even
Come on, Val.
the what is that? The Friday night poker game that they have. Also, 1 and 2, no third.
Yeah.
Shame on them.
They got a problem. They can't finish anything. They can't get a trilogy going. All right, let's go to our next one. What do you say?
Why not?
Good morning, Spencer. Good morning, Stu. Good morning, all of the nerds. This is Paul Calico coming at you. Wanted to answer the movie rating question. Movie ratings don't matter to me that much. I'll go see the movie if I like it. PG-13, rated R, it's all good to me. But then again, I don't have kids to take into account. So, there's that. Also, okay, I'm going to answer the retro gaming question. There's a game that I'd like to see redone. A little game called Dino Crisis. It's basically Resident Evil meets Jurassic Park. You go to an island, it's infested with dinosaurs, and you have to shoot the dinosaurs and kill them, and then escape. It was a really fun game. I believe they made 2. I wish they would make a 3rd. Another game I'd like to see redone, Knights of the Old Republic. Just give me an HD remaster or make another story. Either way would be good. And lastly, I'm going to say bring back Rogue Squadron, because I just want to do some space dogfighting in the Star Wars universe. Anyway, guys, that's all I got. Else time.
All right, man, Paul. Okay, Paul is speaking my language. Knights of the Old Republic, HD remake, or full on, and then some of the Rogue Squadron. Man, I want to get behind an X-wing cabin again, and I want to pilot one of those. It's been too long.
It's funny because even with the prequels, we still saw like Starfighter and all those kinds of things. There has not been a good space shooter, like not even outside of Star Wars, in a long time, and those were kind of iconic and coming out, in time with the movies and things like that. I really would love to see something new from Star Wars on the space game front.
I know Battlefront had some of that, and I know Battlefront 2 had more. And I played, I think, a little bit of the Battlefront 2, and it improved. But man, I miss those games. I remember playing, was it called Rogue Squadron? It was a PC based game, and I remember using a flight stick for it. And it was kind of just kind of a shooter on rails, but you'd be attacking Star Destroyers and having knock out all the little shield generators and all that kind of stuff. And dude, it was just a ton of fun. TIE Fighter, that was the name of the game. Yeah. TIE Fighter.
The X-Wing and the TIE Fighters and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, those were all solid. I loved those. And as far as Battlefront 2, that's more of an arena game, and even the single player stuff in 2 is really just, it's kind of like a segment of that, and it's not quite the same feel where you've got the single player campaign and you're going through, or maybe you've got some some versus stuff that you can do in it, but the X-Wing and TIE Fighter era of games was the pinnacle of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I loved it.
I want to go back and change my answer to TIE Fighter. I want a remake of TIE Fighter. and the HD remakes, that's definitely a thing these days. And I was against them originally. I'm like, oh great, put new graphics on it, sell it again. But honestly, I've really enjoyed some games, and I'm actually looking forward to the Dark Souls trilogy remasters. So
yeah, I don't know how Knights of the Old Republic would do, because that's so old. I feel like they'd have to redo the whole thing.
Well, that's kind of what they do with some of those remasters. So
yeah. Well, I'm all for it. Make it happen, someone, please.
Yes,
Get on that, BioWare.
Yes, please.
All right, let's go to the last one.
Good morning, Stu and Spencer. How are you guys? This is Tim Pollan from lovely, snowy Iowa. I would like to see a Vanquish remake or a continuation on the story. Played it on Xbox, and I'm like, why isn't this being redone? It's fantastic. Another one in the nerd realm would be Captain America Super Soldier. Great game. It was on 360. It was on PS3. Why aren't we doing this before the Avengers hype runs out? Anyway, I'm very disappointed in iTunes. I wrote you a nice review with a recipe for pork chop pizza in it just for Stu, and it never posted. So, thank you guys. Have a great day. Bye.
All right, Tim, here's the cool thing. Next week's episode 100, if you want to call in and give us your pork chop pizza recipe live on air, I will play that just to torture Stu. I mean, just to make Stu happy.
Or he could actually post the recipe on Facebook on our page.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm actually going to have a hard time being all about the iTunes today if they're dodging some ratings like that, especially if they include recipes that I need for my life.
Yeah, how about that? What do you think about Tim's suggestion that we need to see some of these like Avengers type of games, games they could remake to try to, capitalize on the hype train before Marvel kind of moves on to its next phase?
Honestly, this kind of ties into what I was saying about, the Star Wars shooters is we're not seeing many movie tie-ins, or at least any that are any good. A few exceptions. Obviously, people are going nuts about the SpiderMan stuff right now.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's like a fantastic idea. Or even kind of not necessarily a remake of it, but kind of a new iteration of something. But like, there are a couple series of Marvel games that have come out a couple times, and they've always had like great reviews. I would love to see something like that done. I would definitely be on board. Get people hyped up. It's cross hype. It's kind of silly that they don't.
Take advantage. Strike while the iron's hot. That's what I say. Listen, super friends, I'm over the moon that we had 3 voicemails this week,
and I didn't even beg.
My phone kept ringing, and I was like, "Oh, another one's coming in." I'm like, "This is awesome." I'm like, "I wonder if Stu got online and was begging for it again." But no, you did not, and so I think that's awesome.
I beg through the back channels.
I
owe you guys each $20. People. Thanks.
Nice. There you go. Anyway, super friends, thank you so much for answering our question of the week. It's one of our favorite parts. I'm really looking forward to next week. I'm going to say it again. Next week, we want you to ask us questions. It's episode 100. We're going to be celebrating. And so we want to hear from you. Once again, reach us all the normal places, our email, our Twitter, our Facebook, or our voicemail. Stu, how can our super friends help us out this week?
They can track down the guys at iTunes that are removing the reviews and give them a what for, if you know what I'm saying. And in the meantime, leave a 5-star review just so that we know that you've done it, because I'm sure the stars end up there. The numbers really count for us. They really matter. They get us noticed on lists. But yeah, if you're leaving reviews and those are not showing up, I'm concerned and want to do something about it. Gosh darn it, I'm mad. But I don't really think I could do anything effective. However, another thing that you can do is also let your friends know, and you can share the pork chop pizza recipe while you're, enjoying that pizza. You can, talk about the podcast, tell your friends how it's awesome that we're hitting our 100th episode, and maybe get them to come on board for the next wave and see how things are going. And we'd love to have more super friends that way.
Fortress of Nerditude Phase 2, that's what you're saying?
I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
New and improved. I like it. I like it a lot. So, Stu, I got a question for you. Recently...
42.
Recently, Bob Iger, the head of Disney, was talking about the acquisition of the Fox stuff and saying how, they're going to have the rights to the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. And they basically said, they said they're going to end up putting the X-Men in the same universe as all of our current superheroes. But he says that this is only going to go forward with Kevin Feige at the helm and with, his input on how to do this, because obviously he's kind of been the mastermind of the entire MCU era. So I want to ask you, if you're Kevin Feige,
and I am,
and you are, and now you have an opportunity to bring in the X-Men into this universe,
and I do,
how do you go about doing that?
I actually go back in time and include them from the very beginning. But short of that, there's actually... So the problem here is that you're bringing a known franchise into another known franchise where neither one of them have ever met before, but are both very well established in their stories.
Right.
And you have two main ways of doing this. You grab the bull by the horns and just throw them in there and you hope it all works out, or you try to be sneaky about it and kind of do your viewership a disservice, because I really don't think there are many people, maybe young kids, but these are not the people that have been following MCU forever. I don't think there's anyone that has the disillusion that these are two separate franchises, but they both exist. So it's got to be careful. I think trying to do it kind of like just, we're just going to kind of add them in and pretend they've been there the whole time isn't going to really help anybody. But
yeah, that's a bad idea.
But if you, at the same time, if you try to overplay it, I think that could bite you in the butt. So I have two main ideas about how I, as Kevin Feige, obviously, would approach this.
Well, tell us, Kevin Feige, how would you approach this?
Hey guys, thank you for bringing me on the podcast. I have no idea if that's what he sounds like.
No, I love it though. Keep going with that.
I honestly, my best idea would be that the school. So no matter how you do this, you have to retcon something. I can't see a way not to retcon something if you do it. But my idea would be that the school for gifted peoples, mutant peoples, would be
Xavier's School for Gifted
blah
Youth.
blah. That it's been there the whole time, and they've been keeping an eye on what's going on with the world around them and the Avengers and all that kind of stuff. But because of things like the Accords, they have very deliberately kept themselves well hidden. And then you kind of work into, maybe 4 or 5 years down the road into where the mutant rights thing is kind of a norm. And you just kind of slowly introduce them into that. The thing is that definitely retcons any previous X-Men stuff.
Okay, hold on a second. So let me, if you don't mind, I want to ask you a couple questions here.
Okay.
So you're saying like the idea, like they've been here the whole time, but they've been in hiding.
Yep.
And then, because eventually you're gonna have them like work into some of these movies and introduce stuff. So do you have like an event that would happen that would like cause them to have to come out of hiding, or kind of make themselves known to the world in a way, or at least known to some of our heroes?
That could potentially tie in with a major event such as, say the Infinity War. Where there's going to be we already know there's going to be some time travel, so the gimmick doesn't necessarily hinge totally on that. There's this major catastrophe, half of everybody's disappeared. That's too big for the X-Men to not be a part of, because obviously they will have lost half the people, whatever the case may be. And I think it gives at least a least challenging scenario for them to come into play. I would say it definitely has to be revolved around an event in order for that to happen.
So
maybe.
So we know that they're not going to be introduced till sometime after the next Avengers and the next Avengers movie, whatever they're going to call it. We still don't know, right? After Infinity War, Avengers 4. So I thought about that too. Like, could this happen? And maybe with the Time Stone, with Thanos, you could see some time travel-y stuff happen. Because, right, how do you get around the fact that if they've been there the whole time, why didn't they do anything to help fight Thanos or get involved?
Yep.
So yeah, that's an interesting dilemma you'd have to ride around and try to figure out a way.
Yeah. The only other option that I really see as being viable is you just introduce them en masse. Some really underplayed reason for them to come out, and they're just all suddenly there, or pretending like they've been there the whole time. It's sloppy. But at this point, there's really no way to do it other than to rip off the Band-Aid. You could do some alternate Earth stuff, but that to me even seems even more hokey.
So I thought of this idea kind of along that, right? Because trying to figure out how do you get around some of these other events. You remember the first X-Men movie that came out? Magneto had this idea where he had this, device that they put in the Statue of Liberty that basically was going to, basically cause this like big wave to, cause the, X-Men mutation gene to be activated in kind of like everyone. And so that was kind of like the whole idea is they were, he was trying to do that so he could force everyone to be a mutant to have to deal with that. And so I kind of took that approach and I thought, well, what if in some MCU movie down the road, something happens where we have some event that takes place. And this is going to have to be after Thanos or whatever, but something happens where everyone on the planet is exposed to some sort of radiation from space or some sort of, irradiated material or something that happens that then would cause the mutation. Then you could, in theory, have an event that happens in an already established world and now start having people that start showing different signs and things that are some abnormalities and they could be reported on. And then you would give an opportunity for the MCU to reboot all of the characters because they're going to have to get all new actors. I think that's a universal given. Yeah,
and I was actually going to say that there's really no way for it to work, I think, with the established characters and actors.
Yeah, as much as I love some of the established characters and actors, I think you have to do it. So if you did it that way, where you introduce something that happens that now causes the mutation gene, now you could have an opportunity to tell a story, and you could even set it in today's day and age, and you could, have Xavier, and you could have, Magneto, and all that. But like, kind of what the First Class stuff did, where they kind of know each other, and you could kind of reestablish some of those stories, but now they'd be MCU stories. But you'd have to lose some of the background stuff. You'd have to lose the Magneto being, a Jewish, Holocaust survivor, which I think is actually kind of a big thing for him. Yeah. So like you'd have to lose some of that kind of stuff because you couldn't go back in and tell a story that took place unless now you're, the time stone's still around and you got to figure out a way to retcon that. But I think that's a way they could do it. Also, you also have to remember that in the MCU, we have the Maximoffs, right? You've got, the MCU's version of Quicksilver who's passed, and then you got Scarlet Witch.
Right.
And she's not necessarily a superhero, but she was kind of, this other thing, and they couldn't use the term mutant. So
altered human? Is that what it was?
Yeah. So there might be some way to say like, hey, there's other people that are kind of like Wanda. And maybe she goes on like a quest to kind of find some of them. And maybe some of the things that she's done with using her abilities has helped trigger the mutation in others. I don't know, but I'm just curious because somehow you've got to either find a way to start fresh without having a retcon, or you got to find a way to retcon a ton of stuff.
Yeah, to be honest, I would rather have a reboot that I would rather have this be in a different universe. And it's not because I don't want to see more superheroes if it's done well and not just throw them all on screen for 30 seconds apiece. But this whole problem I see causing more rifts in the fan base than anything else, no matter how they do it.
So you think it would be nice to see them all as MCU movies, but it be basically its own standalone universe, separate?
Yeah, I mean, that never the two shall meet kind of thing. Just because pushing them together is going to backfire no matter how they do it.
In that case, would you push then maybe the X-Men and the Fantastic Four together in their own MCU verse?
If you're going to reboot them, yes. I mean, there's obviously no better time to do it, and they could cohabitate, I guess. But then you're always going to have the glaring question of why aren't they meeting other superheroes?
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Okay, let's play this out. Let's say they do the separate universes thing. At some point, could you have characters like Doctor Strange have the ability to bounce between the two?
Then you're starting to get into the timey-wimey stuff or the multiple Earth things. And I think if you're going to hazard that, then you may as well just go ahead and merge them together. But
Because
I mean,
if they
could.
did, I'm just wondering, like, if they did keep them separate, and so they could keep everything kind of well established to their separate universes, then you could have some sort of event, kind of like the DC does, and they did with their big crossover that we just watched recently with like Crisis on Crisis on Earth X, and basically you saw these kind of everyone kind of coming together and pairing up from different universes. You could have something like that where something happens that they need to, Doctor Strange says, I've seen every possible outcome of everything, of every whatever, blah, 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 all time and space. And I know where we can get help. And then he somehow goes over and all of a sudden he brings in Wolverine and Cyclops and Beast. And all of a sudden now we got all these people that they don't know anything and they've got different backgrounds. I mean, something like that could work if done right.
Yeah, the whole if done right, sure.
Right. I'm just curious. Like, it was Bob Iger saying that this is going to happen at some point, and Kevin Feige is going to obviously be taking a strong hand in this, which makes sense. I'm just curious to see, because I think a lot of people, a lot of Marvel fans, a lot of fans of just specifically the X-Men and those X-Men movies and the Marvel movies want to see this happen somehow.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't feel good about it. I'm very Chicken Little on this issue. And it's again, not for any lack of desire to see it done right. And I would be so happy to be proven wrong. I think it's a very dangerous chemistry to do that with two very established franchises.
I wish, also, this is a silly thing, but I wish we could have kept the original actors from the Fantastic Four movies, and that this was happening years ago.
Which Fantastic Four movies?
Not the Roger Corman. I'm talking about the original one that came out like in the early 2000s, because then we could just see Chris Evans playing both Johnny Storm and Captain America in a crossover movie.
Or find out that they've both been the same the whole time.
Bum, bum, bum. That would be kind of funny. Anyway, so I don't know where this is going, but I don't know what they're going to do with this. But we know it, and now something has to happen because they've said they're going to, and that's the direction they're going to go as a company. And so, we got some ideas. I'm curious to see if anyone else has any ideas. It's not going to be our question of the week because obviously next week's 100 and we're not probably going to be talking about this. But I'm just curious. So if you want, you can always drop us a line and we can, interact with you on the old social medias and get into that.
Or go find a payphone and call it in.
That always works too. You never know. We just may pick up the phone.
Or use the bat phone and get some frozen meat stuff.
Yeah, especially if you're sick. I'm really good at chicken noodle soup, as Stu found out last week.
Yes, I did twice.
Pretty awesome. Anyway, super friends, that's all we got for this week. We want to wrap it up because the next week's going to be a big week for us. We're super, super excited for episode 100. Stu, man, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad that you're still with us and you're alive. And I can't wait to next week, man. I can't wait to party it up.
Heck yeah. Sorry for the Utah swear.
Well, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.